recorded before I forgot. All right. Okay. All right. So let's keep talking about the things we had from last time here. All right. Has any one of you started looking into internship application? Anyone? Have you seen any of the interns opened? The application opened? Not yet. Yeah. Very good. Yeah, definitely check it out. Okay, I think it's definitely you will start to see. Maybe right now it's a little bit too early, but I think around September, October, for sure, all these big companies will open their internship. I don't think they're going to frozen it. I think they will probably even have more openings because I think the past year maybe they slowed down a little bit, but now they kind of already get used to all this online situation. There will be more opportunities. All right, but no matter what, the more difficult part is what do you do when the interview comes, and then how can you, handle that. So that actually need a lot of preparation. Yeah, where to look for internships. So obviously, some of the big companies you can go directly in their website to submit resumes. Other than that, just try to search and use all the different sources. So we can talk more about that one at some point. Basically, anything like Indeed, Monster, this kind of website, yeah, Handshake is another thing. Any kind of source that you can find and search, just just fine. But for specifically for summer internships, I think these big companies are more formal, and so they normally start to hire or receive application in the fall. But if we're talking about the small companies, and I don't think they're going to start hiring internship in the fall. I think that doesn't make much sense. So what you should do is constantly coming back to this job website to, every day or every week to see if there are any kind of updates, and you always just submit it as soon as you can. All right. So regarding the sources, it's pretty much just online. That's going to be your.
But Professor, during this situation, do you think that is it possible? You think it's how many percentage we have chance for the internship about the coronavirus time? Because as you said, it maybe takes for maybe a year to everything goes back. So, what's your prediction about it?
You mean what's the chance of what
for getting the internship during this situation? About the companies that are they really willing to hire someone for internship?
Yeah, I know. No, I think it really depends on the industry. I think the whole IT industry shouldn't be too much, shouldn't be too much be impacted.
Okay.
If we're talking about a company like a software company, internet company, mobile, I don't see any reason that they will be affected too much by this one here.
I mean, because the economy is down, that's why I'm just thinking maybe that the crash in the economy helps basically some of the software companies, or because the Zoom, for example, the Zoom right now, I think the stock is so high because everybody using the Zoom.
Yeah.
But so your prediction is we have the chance for getting the internship?
Yeah, absolutely. So, speaking of economy, I think that's a much bigger topic, and nobody can really predict it, even though a lot of the numbers doesn't look good. But right now, it looks like economy is okay, actually, at least much better than people are thinking, no matter whether you're looking at the stock market or the housing market. And, we'll see. So I think most people now agree that this is not going to be as bad as 2008 or 2009. It's really a different situation. And also, it looks like the vaccine is going to become around the end of the year, or maybe early next year, and then maybe it takes half year, 1 year to get majority of the people the vaccine. So hopefully, within the year should be okay. But I mean, I'm actually not too worried about this one, mainly because of the CS major or the whole internet industry, software industry. I think it's still kind of a good area to be. They didn't stop working. They're actually doing more things than before. Just think about, you mentioned about Zoom. This is the best example. I think they had some kind of outreach on Monday, that some of the service got stopped. I didn't have classes on Monday morning, but they had issues. Part of the reason because all the colleges started class, and then it's kind of crashed their server. So they're probably much busier than before. They actually did more updates probably compared with their first few years. But those are definitely good signs. So definitely keep an eye on the internship. So that's why I believe there will be more and more opportunities. The only difference is right before the summer, some of the company did cancel the internship. I think some of the company were impacted because of the specific industry. I told you I have students whose internship got canceled because of they're doing this event ticketing type of system. Obviously, that's kind of a very unlucky. Sometimes company cancel that because they don't know how to handle remote work. But now I think everyone already get used to this one. So
Yeah, because I'm looking for the consulting companies, look at the Accenture or Tata Consultancy.
yes.
I'm just looking on that companies, and right now all of the people working over there just staying at home and just working from their home.
Yes.
And I have one of my friends that he got the job over there. As soon as he got the job, he just is staying at home, and they're just paying to him for just staying at home.
Exactly. So, yeah, even I think in May or June this year, we had a student got offer from Microsoft, and then we had a student from got offer from Amazon. They basically just work, and one of the students told me he hasn't really met his manager in person since he joined the team. So for 3 months. So, but everything got started as normal. All right, let me see others comments. Yeah, that's what people are talking about, all this economy thing about printing money. But economy, in my opinion, is just much more complicated than we thought. Okay, so and definitely the numbers don't look good, but at least right now things are looks fun. One major reason, think about that, is a lot of people that like unemployment rate is very high, but at the same time, think about the past months, your spending actually is much less than before, right? You probably almost don't really spend much. You don't know where to spend. That's also another thing that's different from 2008, 2009. Yeah, and then some of you actually did mention about these internships with the requirements about coming back to school. A lot of big companies like to do that. Okay, so I have some kind of my personal opinion on that one. One thing I suggest that you should not delay your graduation because of a internship, a possible internship. That's very, very meaningless. Okay, it's not worth doing that. You should get out of school as early as you can. Or even.
So, Professor, your opinion is because I had that problem too. So I was undecided. Is it which one is more important, the graduation or getting the internship?
Both are important, of course, but
But I mean, if you have two options,
they don't have to conflict. I would, a short answer is I would still do the internship, but still graduate at the same time. But then you don't have to, you can tell people, okay, again, this is my personal thing. Okay, a lot of people might not agree, but I have seen students actually doing this all the time. That, well, I because nobody's gonna really verify this one. The whole offer thing happens in January or February or even earlier, and it's basically just maybe one of the question in the form, like, are you going to graduate or not? Well, I'm going to choose maybe not graduate. I mean, I have maybe plans in the fall, right? So I would still try to get that internship anyway, but without having to really, take another course in the fall. I think it's not really worth it. Okay. But this, I don't think this is lying anything. It's just, you know, some kind of a strategy you can plan with. You can say that, you know, I might be able to push one quarter to the fall. I mean, whether you do it or not, that's another question. But I can tell you, all I can tell you is the company is really not really caring about the, uh, they're not going to go back to
Internship?
school to see your courses and everything. Okay, so this one, I talk to different points every year. I want you to be cautious about that requirements. Okay, I know it is a requirement, but at the same time, it is not a very serious requirement, because you should think about from the company point of view. Okay, the goal of setting this whole internship, my understanding is that risk requirements kind of guarantee some kind of fairness. Okay, but their goal is to find the best people on board so that they can keep them working there. Okay, so again, this requirement has nothing to do with helping them to finding the best people. So all they care is you show up, you do the good job, and they want to extend a full-time offer after that. That's their goal. Nobody will kind of deny you because, oh, you're not coming back to school in the fall, something like that. Nobody will do that. I tell you, you know, the truth that I had a student who did an internship at Microsoft that they had the same requirement, but then they still graduate in spring and summer, and then they keep going working, and nobody's going to find and go to say, oh, actually, what are your courses when you graduate? Nobody really care about that one. Okay, so they just care about if you do the work or not. So, well, I know this is the very formal requirements, but I want you to kind of try to deal with that with some kind of a strategies. Okay, you don't really need to go to lie or anything, but I don't want you to take that requirement too serious. And also, you don't want to go, oh, because I have this intern, I want to delay my graduation. You can do that, of course. It's a very make you comfortable, but you know, not too much point just because of the internship. Because right after internship, if you do well, they will give you an offer. You can then start work right away. Then now you got one quarter, you have to wait another half year. So I don't really see that's.
That's why that I just think about exactly the same way that basically I said, like, if I graduate, for example, in summer, it's much better to graduate on fall because, for example, if somebody's graduate on summer, because if you want to graduate on fall, it means you have to wait for almost 6 months.
Yeah,
So if you
that's why
don't
it's a
in
very
summer
that's a
class,
very bad choice. I think that's a very bad choice. The 6 months you can do
so,
so much things. So I might
but
go with this way. So when I deal with this kind of situation, I might say that, you know what, I can graduate in the summer, but if there's requirements, I can talk to my school and see if I can graduate in the fall. Or you can say, you know, I'm actually planning in the fall, but I can also graduate in the summer, you know, if I don't have the internship. So I want you to deal with this one a little bit more strategically. Okay. That to get your the best benefit, because the time matters. Okay, the right now we're changing
yes, exactly.
the semester is going to take you like 15 to 20 weeks. If you just push one quarter to the fall, no, it's meaningless, I think. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Right. Just very cautious on that one. Okay. Don't feel that you're not qualified or anything. And also at the end of the day, you always apply. Okay. If you don't apply, you don't try, you don't negotiate, nothing will happen. If you just say, oh, okay, this doesn't work for me, I don't apply, then nothing will happen. Okay. But if you push hard, you try your best, you negotiate with them, you communicate with your manager, you know, it's going to work out. Because I tell you that once you start to work at internship, right? So you join a very specific team. You work with a team of 8 or 7 people. There is one manager that works with you closely. That manager is going to determine if they want to give you an offer or not, right? So if the manager likes you and then they want you to come back as soon as you can because they want people to do their work. They don't want you to go back to school for another half year. Then that's a very like uh, definitely not a situation they want to see. Okay, nobody want that. Nobody want that one. So, and also the manager don't really care about all of this requirement. They don't even care if you have a degree or not. And I also tell you the truth that in Amazon, when I joined Amazon back in 2011, and then Amazon at that time, the offer, they give you a different offer for different degrees. At that time, it's 90K for bachelor's, 95K for master's, and 100K for PhD. So I have my PhD, so I get 100K as a base salary. On day one, you go to sign up, right? You do all the orientation stuff. Nobody gonna ask you to show your degree. Nobody even asks that. Okay, to be honest, if somebody say they're a PhD, they're say PhD, nobody verify that because that's really not important. Okay, because your ability, your skill has already is shown in the interviews, in the internship performance. They don't need to go back to see your degree, your school, whatever GPA, whatever when you graduate. That's not important. Okay, so focus on the important skills. Um, most of the things are okay, but this requirement people and our students talk this so frequently. I just want you to know. I think it's a more kind of fairness kind of a rule. It doesn't really mean anything too much. You shouldn't be bothered too much by this kind of rule. All right. So that's just again my personal opinion. I won't call it like fully correct, but or I don't think it's kind of a political correct kind of thing, but I think it's more practical for you guys to think. All right. Yeah, I mean, guys, I like graduate earlier because time matters. Okay, while you are young, you can try things, you can change,
Yes.
you can make mistakes, you can come back, you can try
So,
different kinds
Professor, basically, I
of.
mean, if you were instead of us, and exactly you have these options that okay, I want the graduate as soon as possible right now with your experience or internship, in your opinion.
Yeah. So
Zero
you're
internship,
yeah,
graduate faster in 3 years, or internship, graduate in 4.5 years, maybe.
yeah. So one, this kind of goes too much. Okay, I'll probably answer this question, and then we have to come back to the class. So, um, internship is something really, really valuable. Okay, I mentioned this one in different course. The reason I think it's valuable not only because it gives you something good on your resume, but more importantly, the internship normally is a transition for you to get to the full-time position, particularly for this big company. If you work, if you do the intern in Amazon, Google, Facebook, they all work the same. So you work there for 10 to 12 weeks. At the end, they give you a review. If you did well in the internship, they give you a full-time offer right away. So I think that's the biggest value of doing internship. It provides you a path to move on to the full-time job. Then you might be wondering what's the difference between I go straight with a full-time job in application and versus internship application. The difference is the internship application is much easier than you apply for full-time job internship. For example, most of the companies for internship application, they only do phone interviews. Okay, 2 rounds of phone interview. If you do well, they gave you internship offer right away. But then if you do the full-time engineer position, you still need to do that 2 rounds of phone interviews. But after that, they will invite you to the company and then you have to go there, spend 1 day to meet with 4 or 5 or 6 engineers to do another many rounds of interview with different people, which is way more challenging than just doing the phone interviews. Okay, that's why if you can start with the internship, the bar might be lower. However, once you get to the internship, you do the job, you work hard, you can always kind of impress people and using the 3 months time, and then your chance of getting that full-time opportunity is much, much higher. Okay, it's much more easier than you doing the interview questions with 1 day's interview. That's why I think this is the biggest benefits of doing internship. So if you can do an internship, definitely go for it. Okay, that's the thing you should know about internship. No, of course, you also get this good experience on your resume. All right, but all of the internship graduation shouldn't conflict. Okay, you graduate, you can still do the internship. Okay, nobody said you can't do the internship after you graduate. Okay, so it's just a matter of how a company define it. All right. Yeah, so this Ryan, your question, the same thing. Okay, again, I would it doesn't hurt, right, Ryan? You graduate in spring. Who knows what's going to happen? Maybe something happen. You can graduate in spring, right? but it doesn't hurt you apply in the fall, right? You just send the application. Let's see what happens. Maybe they think you're not qualified. That's okay. At least you tried it, right? But maybe they just let you to do the interview, and then at the end, HR started ask you, "Oh, when are you going to graduate?" Then you start to realize that's a problem. Then you can see how you can negotiate or how you can adjust it. If it's really a Google internship, they ask you to push your graduation. I think that's still worth it, right? So that's why, Ryan, for this kind of thing, you apply anyway. There's before it happens, just apply. Okay, you apply both internship and full-time job. They don't conflict. You need more opportunities. Okay, we can talk more about the application, the reply rate. The rate of getting reply in an interview is very, very, very low. Okay, don't assume that you apply something they're going to ask you right away and then you have to decide. That's probably not going to happen. Okay, most of the time you get no reply. Sooner or later you will realize that you need more replies and opportunities. There's no point for you to think about, oh, whether it's too late to apply, should I apply or not? Always apply. That's my most important advice. Okay, I'll through the semester. Okay, I will show you some different examples, and then the cases in terms of job application. I will show you a lot of things from the employer point of view, to let you understand how this whole job application works. So what is the competition you're facing? The competition you're facing is much more than you can imagine. Okay, one position you find through website, you prepare nicely, cover letter, resume. You think you're very competitive, but you didn't know that your resume get into 400 or 500 application, and then for employers, they can't really read it carefully and compare that, and the chance of they selecting you is very, very random. Okay, so anyway, guys, that's kind of some of the things we discussed here. Okay, but to summarize, I recommend you go to work as early as you can, because that's where you can make money and make experiences. You can't get those at schools. All right, you guys, if you're a freshman, I'm not going to talk about this one, but now you're already senior. You got a good stuff. Okay, you have the skill, you got experience. I kind of know most of your coding is not really object-oriented, design. This course will help you, but you can learn much quickly by working with the team in reality. Okay, so that's my point. The message I left it in the Discord. Okay, that's why even I'm teaching this course, I know you guys can learn and improve more than taking my course in the industry. So that's why industry is the best place for you to improve yourself fundamentally. Not to mention you make so much more money in the industry. All right. So time matters, guys. When you are young, there's so many things you can do. And this is the industry that really appreciate being young, being energy, being able to try different things. In another 10 years, once you get married and you got a kids, you can't afford to try some of the things. You can't quit your high salary job to do startups. And because that time you got a lot of things going on. All right. So the time really matters. Definitely try to graduate as soon as you can if you have that chance. All right. All right. Yeah, no problem, Ricky. I'm very glad to share a lot of these things. And also the good thing is over the past year, I started to see more and more of our own students' cases. I can easily connect you with some of these things I've seen before. I can tell you there was one time the two students, they did a summer internship. Two of them called me one after another to ask me about this whole requirements. And they got a perfect GPA, good experience, internship offer. But Microsoft asked them to become a return student. And well, that's exactly what I told them. Why don't we get things started? Okay, just tell them, oh, I might graduate in the fall. And they worked there perfect. They did a great job, and that they finished that one. They stayed in the company to do the full time without any issues. Okay, so these are all the real stories. I didn't make up all the stories. That's why I can share with all of this one to you. Because if you think about from the manager team point of view, they want you to come back early to do the contribution. So if you think that makes sense, so think about how you're going to deal with this situation. All right. So anyway, I will to finish the discussion last time. All right. Yeah, sorry, there are a lot more questions. So Christian, so yeah, the expected graduation date, yes, maybe for the internship, maybe you can put maybe a little bit vague date, I guess. So to avoid some of the issues, yeah, it doesn't matter too much. You can put a very vague dates, or if you know this is internship, for example, why don't you just put it expect to be in the fall 2020, right? Because it's expected, right? So there might be issues. You know, I work harder, I got more things done. The key is to get yourself the opportunities first. Okay, don't worry about it being right or wrong, being correct or not. Okay, give yourself opportunity first because the opportunities are very, very limited, and you won't have that many opportunities. Okay, I think you can consider this as kind of again the political correctness. I think people are talking about every day. So your goal shouldn't be being correct. Your goal should be, you know, getting a successful career. I don't think this one has nothing to do with honesty or anything. So it's just about how you deal with that strategically. All right. Okay. So about OOP, guys. This one here, I told you, you know, using OOP design program means that you're using encapsulation, information hiding, and then create more objects, interfaces, all of this stuff, polymorphism. And then because these are the advanced type of programming, that's why we're all doing OOP. But I didn't say that this is the perfect. Okay, OOP obviously also has issues, right? So for example, right here, digester. Now you guys all know him because digester algorithm, but I bet you didn't know that digester is a really famous guy in the field of software engineering. And then he created some of the very classical series about software engineering. One of the most um, uh, famous theory he has is something called a go-to statement is harmful. Okay, so what happened about that one? I really need to talk about this one. You know more about digestion. So in the old days, I told you about this language called BASIC. Okay, and this is a very good language to use, high level language. Okay, very easy to use. Now, when people started programming in BASIC, actually Bill Gates wrote his own BASIC. That's when he got very famous about. We use something called a line number. Okay, most of the language today don't have this one anymore. But I actually, when I learned BASIC, I started learning all of this one. So the line numbers serve as a way to specify the sequence of your command. For example, the first one I say a equals to 10, right? And then the next line I create another number. It has to be integer, and then b equal to 5. And the next time I do print, for example, a and b. And the next time I say if a is greater than b, then I print, bigger or something like this, right? And next one, I can say that, okay, if A is less than B, then I can say, now go to, this is a statement called a go to statement. Now go to a line number, for example, go to line number 200, okay, where you have some other things going on here. And then you got a 200, which is to input, for example, A and B again, and do something else. All right. So as you can see, this go-to statement just allows you to change the order of the execution of the program, so you can jump back and forth to different places. To some extent, this one is similar to the functions we are using, right? When you call function, then you basically jump from the current point to another block of the code and then finish that and come back. But this one, basically they have function as well, but this one just don't worry about the function. You can always go to different points of your program as long as you know the line number. Okay, so in the early days, this approach is very, very popular. But Dijkstra in the 70s found out that this kind of programming is a very bad practice. So he wrote a paper, something called a go-to is harmful. And then I think the paper was published in late 60s or early 70s. You can still find that paper. So basically, Dijkstra believe that this is such a bad practice because if you have so many go-to statements in your program, when your code goes to thousands of lines, tens, hundreds, thousands of lines, this whole go-to statement is going to become a disaster because you can't really track how the program goes, and then it's very hard to debug things, right? So that's his opinion. Then when the paper was just published, nobody think that is right because everyone is programming that way. And then once you get used to this approach, you find this very convenient because it makes your program very efficient. You can always keep the lines, things like that. But sooner or later, after another couple of years, people start to realize this is really not good, not a kind of good way to structure the code, organize the code. So people start to not using this go-to statement anymore. That's why later on when Pascal came, and you don't really see this one anymore. It's all like procedure functions. You don't have a line number. Okay, but this one here is a big contribution from Digistr. Okay, so this Digistr is a great computer scientist, not only on data structure but also on software engineering and design. So, but he has a very different opinion. He thinks this kind of object-oriented programming is really bad. He doesn't like it. So OOP definitely had some kind of a curve in the beginning because people get so used to the procedural kind of a way of thinking and designing, and you now ask them to totally change this one into a bunch of classes, object entities. They don't get used. So again, this is very typical in the CS. A lot of the old people don't want to change. Okay, they feel just so hard to make a change because they feel so comfortable with the old ways of programming. And so that's why it brings another career question. Some of you might ask me, oh, I heard that the programmer, the developer is only good for the young people and then they're going to lose their jobs when they get older. Is that true or not? Okay, so I think in any industry, when you get older, you get higher risks of losing jobs, except for example, professors or a few kind of a career, right? If you're working in industry, normally you will face the same challenge. But in reality, when I was in Amazon, for example, the truth is that most experienced developers, designers, architects are all normally older people because you have to have that kind of experience in order to be good at the design, especially for designing a problem like this, object-oriented. If you never wrote enough, complicated system, the code, no matter how hard you can work, right? You're very energetic. You're working super hard. It doesn't solve the problem. Your code still kind of sucks. All right. So that's kind of reality. So that means that you gain more experiences. You can become more experienced developer, designers. You don't need to worry about losing job. However, I'm not saying it's safe because all right, let me mute everyone. Make sure you mute your microphone. But make sure that you have to keep yourself up to date. Really the problem what happens for the older people in the software industry is your technology is too outdated, and then you never learn anything new in the past 5 or 10 years. That becomes really big problem because one day when company laid off people, all right, this is also something you should keep in mind. Okay, when you laid off people, you always laid off the older people because they got much higher salary, been there for longer term, and their contribution is only limited because they get used to the environment. They don't have motivation. They don't have a pressure to compete, and they still take a salary, but they're not making the same amount of a contribution to younger people. So that they are always the first group of target to be laid off. However, that only happens if you really don't have much value added to the company. So it's very important thing to keep in mind is you need to keep yourself always up to date with all this new coding, all this stuff, and never get settled or comfortable with one language only. Okay, like myself in 2014, I was so comfortable with Java. I really don't want to touch all the web stuff, JavaScript. I also wasn't a big fan of Python. But since then, I kind of start to try to push myself just because there's so many new things going on. That's not really done in Java. And then I have to say, recent year, I wrote much more things in Python than Java. And then also JavaScript, I feel much more comfortable with it. So you should actually have yourself very, very open and always try to get these new things tested out and then, learn them and being keeping yourself updated. This is very, very important. Otherwise, you will lose very quickly in the career. All right. So, but some of the disadvantages about object-oriented programming. Number one, we talk about object, right? So the reason we have an object is to try to map the real world in a better way. However, not everything in the real world can be mapped as an object or a class, right? So especially something that's more abstract, some kind of a concept. So here we have an example. What if you're trying to do a procedure, right? So that is not a concrete object. So if you use the object to do it, that also doesn't make sense, right? So that's one disadvantage. A learning curve, I think this is the big one, all right? So especially if you try to program in a real object-oriented way, that takes some time to be familiar with the whole process. When you turn everything from the top-down design, procedural, sequential kind of a implementation approach to this kind of object-oriented approach, that is a big change in your mindset. Okay, even for you guys, I know you all learned Java from first place, but you gotta gradually start to change the way you write a code, write less this kind of scripting type of Java code or Python code, use more of the OOP feature. Right, so that takes time. And also because of all this class stuff, the program size will get bigger. The best example would be think about in Python. All right, so if you want to do a hello world example, now all you need to do is simply like a hello print, right? So just one statement here. Okay, even in basic or Pascal, most of the time in Python, right? You print hello world, right? That's it. And one line you got a result. But in Java, you have to do a class, right? And then you do a public static void main and a bunch of this one here. All right. And then we do print, you even need to do the system. And then hello world. Right. So that's why one line in Python, 4 or 5 lines in Java, that's very, very typical. All right. So because of that, the OOP language normally the code, the program, the size is bigger. So sometimes feel that people don't think that's efficient. All right. And a similar kind of a criticize for Java or OOP is they're not as efficient as the older language such as C and even Pascal, right? So some of the lower level languages. All right. So I want to comment a little bit more on this too. Last time I think I was briefly talking this one with Rafi, I think. It is true that the OOP program take more space. The OOP program is not as fast as C or other lower level languages. For example, Java, Python, they're definitely slower than C, right? The reason is Java and Python, they are running on top of their JVM or their own interpreter. They're not executing directly with the CPU, right? For C code, you're compiling things directly into the assembly code. That's pretty much very close to the hardware. But in Java, your code runs in the JVM, another program. In Python, you're running that in the Python interpreter, right? So because of that, as the speed will not be comparable with C. So that's why a lot of time when people are talking about C++, C versus Java or Python, the ones who prefer C or C++, most of the time they're talking about the performance, the speed. Okay, so yes, so I totally agree that if you're talking about the absolute speed, I think C of course is faster. However, the question is, does that really matter, right? The reason people talk this so much in like 10 years ago, okay, not very often right now. Recently, you rarely see people still kind of discuss this kind of issue. But in 10, 20 years ago, the size and speed definitely matters because at that time the computer was very, very limited. My first computer had 4 or actually 8 megabytes of RAM. Okay, 8 megabytes. So if you have that RAM, then you have to run OS, you have to run a lot of other things. Your program cannot be allocated with that much memory. So you need to be careful about the size for sure. And also the old time, the CPU was very, very slow. And then if you have to run another JVM, how can we afford that, right? So I think this question makes more sense in the old days, but not anymore. Today, even your phone, it has like 100 times the better specs than the computer 10 to 20 years ago. And then Java is slow, yes. Python is slow, yes. But with this good CPU and RAM, the difference is less and less. And that it doesn't affect us to use the application at the end. So that's why today, in my opinion, okay, this again, a lot of people, especially the older people won't agree, they still feel that the C++ is the best. I really don't agree with that point anymore because I think that solving problem is more important. I think you build things quickly with a nice experience is more important. What language you use, how technical it is really not important. Okay, if you have a tool that allows you to build this application quickly, go for it. Okay. Earlier this morning, there was one student after class asking me, oh, I want to make this application. One part of it is I need a lot of data. Should we actually create all the data, build all the data from scratch by ourselves? Or can I use a third-party service, the API, to get those data? My answer is absolutely the latter, right? So if there is the API as a service, why don't you just call that together? Why do you want to actually spend the time to do it yourself? Okay, your goal eventually is not to show people that you are so technical you can build everything from scratch, all this data by yourself. They really don't care. They just want to care about how good your software is. Does that have enough data? Does that work? How quickly you can deliver that to me? So always reuse and they use the higher level languages, focus on application layers, not too much lower layers. Okay, so that's just my kind of advice. So I'm a definitely big fan of supporting simpler type of coding, higher level languages without worrying too much about the details. Okay, I also believe that's represent the trend of the industry. That's why I told you previously, when I was in college, if someone knows how to program Linux kernel, okay, those are so-called like a top coders and top students. But now people don't judge your ability by whether you know C or Linux kernel. Well, yes, you know it. So what, right? You don't even find a job with Linux kernel programming skills. Okay, unless you go to, for example, I have one friend. He works in Samsung. He works in this Samsung Android team that build their security features for the kernel. So he does programming in C for the kernel. But how many positions are in that kind of area? Okay, so you're kind of limiting yourself if you only look at that kind of technical things. But if you're building an application, then every company, big, small, technical company or non-CS company, non-software company, they all need people to build application. You got a so much bigger market, and then your application will be so much bigger. You produce much bigger impact. So why don't you go that way? So again, but if you're very into or enthusiasm about the technical things, that's still good, okay? Because not many people know those things today. Um, and even though the opportunities are less, but the competition is also less, all right? So just here, I want you to realize that there is no perfect answer. You want to focus on what's important, okay? So that's just a little bit more comments on the OOP. Right, Christian asked, what do people initially care most about? Well, I mean, it depends on the um, I mean, if you're talking about interview, they just care about your algorithm skills, your data structure foundation, interview questions. Okay, but once you start to work there, they start to care about this topic. Okay, design, your code quality, scalability, all of this. That's when some of my courses like 40 and this one will start to be useful, but only after you start to work. Okay, I think that kind of answered your question. However, from the product point of view, Christian, I don't know if you're in the 40-day class, it's all about this whole product, solving a problem, being useful, providing a good experience in the UI. That's how you can be successful on the consumer side. All right, so I think talking depending on different stages, I think people are looking for different things. Another thing, a little bit more about this whole algorithm code. A lot of students don't understand why people are asking all these interview questions, right? I know, yeah, these are smart questions. If I can answer that, I'm good. And however, the reality, we rarely write those kind of algorithms, right? How many of you are going to write this kind of sophisticated search algorithm in Google that make it super fast or very efficient? Okay, the answer is very, very few people. Most of the time when you start to work, your code, your algorithm is super straightforward and simple. That doesn't involve much about the some of the graph or trees, the things you've been doing in the lead code. Or why are they still doing that? Right. So I can tell you the answer, guys. So the only reason I think they're still using that approach to interview people is because that's the most efficient way to measure somebody's technical background quickly. Because if we don't do that, now how can I tell you're better than others? I can't just judge you by some of the project you put on your resume, right? Who knows how much you have done what the project is, how many lines of code you have, what is overall experience. I can't judge that, right? So because that's very, very, subjective, and then you can pretty much put anything you want. However, if I gave you a couple of coding questions, you can't cheat, okay? How fast you can get those done, what kind of approach you can you can use to get it done. It shows so much about their programming skills within such a short period of time. So that's why companies are still using this approach to judge people, because it definitely tells your technical background. And also for big companies, they don't care about whether you have done a project or not, right? All they care is if you're a good coder, you're smart, you work hard, you have a good foundation. They don't mind of training you by bringing you on board and then improve yourself with the team. And because they know that you can improve really quickly by gaining all these experiences after you start to work. But they want to make sure that you are a good talent. Okay, that's why one way to look at that very carefully, very quickly, is to through the data code type of questions. All right. So Jimmy is right in the back. How do you know that? All right. Okay. So any other question about OOP and procedural programming languages? Down. All right. So let me take a look. Where? Oh. Okay. Good, Jimmy. Okay. Where are we going? All right, I'm gonna mute him. Okay. All right, this is pretty cool. Okay. All right. So you might want to. All right, going on a trip. Okay, that's very cool. All right, let's actually move on and then start a little bit more technical things. Okay, I'm gonna start some of the OOP reviews very quickly. Let me see. It's right here. All right. Okay, so let's do some reviews, guys. Here. Okay, we'll kind of start from Java, a specific thing with Java. Okay, different language may have different OOP syntax and features. The reason again we focus on Java is it's definitely a widely used language, easier to use than C++. It's improved version of C++, and then it's very complete. Now later on, that Python or some other new languages, they cut too much from Java. They make Java so make Java looks very like extra. But at the same time, I think they got the language too simple. You start kind of lose the opportunity to see the OOP principles after. That's why, when you write Python, most people are just doing the scripting type of Python programming. Very, very rarely people start with the classes, right? So that's, I won't say that's a problem, but you can't understand a lot of the principles easily. So that's why I still Java is a perfect language to teach this course. Okay, so I want you to get started on the very basic foundation about OOP features about Java. Mostly like a review. Okay, you should already learn all of this one, but I'm pretty sure that you will forget a lot of these details. All right. Some of this one will also be useful in the tech interviews, but very basic question. Sometimes we'll ask you the basic question, such as, tell me what's the difference between abstract class and interface. Okay. If you get those kind of questions, I think that's kind of a lucky question. All right, so those questions you should be able to answer that right away. All right, so let's start talking about interface. Now I already showed you that we were learning I showed you the example of the text message example last time where I used interface. Now I intentionally use that one because I want to tell everyone that by the end of the class, if you're still not using interfaces, you're not really a good object-oriented or Java coder. Okay, so I will tell you some different signs about, Java level. I'm pretty sure some of you feel very confident about their Java skills. Okay, now a couple of things you want to keep in mind. Okay, Never call yourself as a Java expert if you don't really use a lot of interfaces or inheritance. If all your code are like standalone class with one after another, you're only like a junior Java developer. Okay. Another important thing, guys, about Java. Java has a lot of things. It has input and output, like a file system. That's a lot of things going on. Java can process UIs, right? So we'll have one assignment with Java UI, like either Swing or Java FX, whatever. A lot of you probably know a lot of Java things, okay? However, the most difficult part about Java, okay, if you want to call yourself as a Java expert, okay, you must be a master of concurrency programming, which means you must know how to program Java threads. Okay, in reality, this is a very easy way to differentiate how experienced you are with Java. If you tell me you never program multi-thread programming in Java to build some kind of multi-thread system, you're definitely not a top Java developer. Okay, that whole thing for Java thread, you might look at the chapters. You know there's only like one or two classes interface about multi-threading. It's not really hard to understand. That I agree. But when it goes to the programming multi-threading program, it's very, very challenging and difficult. It's very difficult to get it correct. Okay, so again, without much experience on multi-threading, you're never going to become a Java top like expert or you know you call it yourself experienced. All right. So these are some of the signs you should keep in mind about concurrency, multi-threading, as well as the OOP stuff. All right. So I want you to become more professional and to differentiate yourself from the rest of your class, your peers. Okay. All right. So interface. So it's Java feature that introduced after C++. C++ didn't have it, but Java realized that we don't want always use class to do the parent class, right? Sometimes I don't want to specify anything in the parent class. I just need a kind of a behavior specification or signature. And then I want to build a like simple interface to serve my purpose. Okay, so this one become a really good feature in Java. All right, so to help you to review this one, I am going to I'm going to introduce this tool here. Okay, it's similar to Kahoot. All right, it's a live polling tool. I'm going to give you a bunch of quiz questions today for each topic, so that I want to see how good you guys are doing. All right, so could you actually use your browser or phone, whatever, to go to this website here called menti.com. This is similar to Kahoot, but this one is more flexible than Kahoot. You can do more answers. Okay, and then you can type this code to join a pool, and then for every question, I'm gonna post some of the answers. So you basically look at the answer from a slides, and then check the answers in the medi.com, so that I will know whether you have finished or not. Okay, so I am going to okay, so let me send this thing here. All right, so that is the link and the code you can join. All right, so let me reshare my screen with the PowerPoint only. Okay. All right, can you guys still see my slides?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. All right, so that I can see the other choices here. Okay, can you guys still see my slides? Okay.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
All right. Very cool. Let's get started. Okay. So I am going to reset the results. Okay. And then now let's take a look at the first question. Okay. So the first question is here. All right. So which of the following variable declaration are correct inside a interface? Okay. There are 5 options. Those are multiple choices. You can choose more than one options. Okay. Once you're done, just type your choice there so I know how many people have finished. And then so I can go through the answers. All right, I'll give you another half minute. So this one's the interface, okay? And then if you want to declare something inside the interface in Java, which ones are allowed, which ones are not? All right. So I want you guys to see the result, okay? All right, so this is what we have. All right, 66 of you already submitted. You can still keep submitting, okay? A is the most selected answer, and then C, actually E is the least selected answer, okay? All right, so that's kind of what I expected, okay? The correct answer are C and E, basically the ones you choose list, okay? So not sure if that's a coincidence, but you know, C and E are correct. A is absolutely wrong, okay? So let's take a look at this one together. All right, come back to the slides here. Let me reshare it. Okay, so we're talking about interface, okay? Interface, normally we're specifying the method, but you can still put variables here, even though it's not a very common practice, because think about the purpose of interface. We're trying to specify some of the behavior you want some of the subclasses to follow. Remember last time I showed you the messaging, the message interface? We have two methods. One is how do you get your message? The other one is how do you display the message? Right, so we'll put the signature there. But you know, what if we want to do the variables? Okay, so first of all, if this is the variable that related with your logic or your implementation, you really shouldn't really put it into the interface. So if you do have something here to put in the interface, in general, it is some kind of a special value or is some kind of a constant. Okay, because that number doesn't really is not really associated with specific classes. It's just some kind of a common value or typical value or constant people need to use as a reference. So that's why remember for interface, well, you can add variables, but it must be a constant. All right. So if you understand that one, the first one is wrong, because you want to have a constant. All right, so you just specify int variable that is not a constant. All right, how do we make a constant in Java? Anyone can type something in the chat. How do you, yeah, final, right? Final is the keyword to make a constant. That's why the first one is wrong. All right, what about the next one? All right, a lot of you choose final and variable name, type, you got everything. But it's still not right. Because the moment you mark something as a final, it has to be given a initial value, right? So this is not a valid declaration. If you try to put this one in your editor, it's going to throw errors. Okay, and that's why if we go next one, this one here, all right, it is the correct answer. Now you might be wondering, okay, where is the final? Okay, so here's a special thing about
Exactly.
yeah, this is a special thing about the interface. So anything you put here will be considered as final anyway. So even if you don't like specify it, it will still be considered as a final.
So what's the point, Professor? We have a final, for example, the last one. So it doesn't matter exactly, they are same code, basically?
So it, well, of course it matters. So this example just showed you that in interface, they kind of consider everything as a final.
Yeah, because on CS2400, we learned about the interface, about it should be finals can be only on the interface. But I was just stopped about this, basically the answer C, that Y is considered as a final. I never seen that.
Yeah. So that's why. So I told you. So in Java, the interface will force everything to become a final, even if you don't write the keyword.
Okay.
Yeah. So we can actually run a quick test and see if that's the case. All right. So where's my Eclipse?
No, I believe I mean basically basically the definition of the interface, as I remember on CS2400, it says the only data that can be on the interface, it should be final, right? The final basically.
Yes, yeah, it is. So that's why the best way to write it is actually last one, guys. So
Yes, exactly. That's why I choose only E, not the C.
exactly.
That's why.
So that's why. But I'm telling you the special case that you don't know, the interface force everything to be final. Okay, even if you are marking it, if you are not, you can try it. If you try to change this value, you can't change it because it is a final. Okay,
because it's on the because
special.
it is on the interface.
Yes, if you define this one in the interface, you can't change it.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
These are very special edge cases. I'm not saying you should write this way. You should write this way. Okay, but
that's why I didn't see that way. That's why I didn't choose it.
Yeah. So no, this lecture actually I prepare a lot of tricky ones. I'm not testing the basic foundation. I'm trying to let you know a lot of this.
Yeah, I choose E, and I was doubt about this. That's one. Yeah. I don't know. Is it that's one? So I didn't choose it. I just choose E.
So E is a perfect way to define a constant. Anytime we define a constant, you should do public static final. Okay. Static or not, it's okay. I mean, I think for interface, I think it will consider as a static, because otherwise, how can you use this variable, right? So so I think if I'm correct, so the static and final are kind of enforced by the interface.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Yeah. So what if you take out the static? I guess it still works, and you just try it in the editor. Okay, so this is just like a final. If you don't have it, I think it still works. I think very likely the interface will kind of enforce it. Okay, but the bottom line here, I want everyone to understand, to remember, is for interface, the declaration, the variable you put it here must be constant.
Basically, Professor, my question is, because basically, I can explain. When we have a class, and if it was inside of class, right? It was a public integer, the var 3 is equal to 100.
Yeah.
On that class, we can say is this a final? No, when it's coming to the interface, we just call it a final, right?
No. If you're talking about a class, right? Class, no. If it's a class, then whatever you put, that's it. And if it's not a final, it's not a final. But when you put this one in the interface, okay, particularly we're talking about interface, then interface will force everything to be final, even if you're not putting it.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
All right. And then this one is wrong because you can't have private in interface. Because think about it, doesn't make sense. If you got a private, then how can people use that one? Because you can't instantiate an instance from interface, right? So everything in the interface is also forced to be public. Like even I think even this one, if you don't make it public, I think it still be public. Right. So these are very special you know, that's why I mentioned that even without a public keyword. So this one, again, just give you a lot of special cases. But it all come to this one point that we want to use constant for interface only, right? So that's one. So the last one is perfect. This is the best way to write the constant. Okay, no confusion. It's ideal way, right? Oh, but even this one, guys, this is the least selected answer. Okay, that doesn't make sense, guys. Okay, so only like 30% of you actually choose this one. All right, so that doesn't look very good. All right, so let's go one more. Second question. All right. So what's wrong with this interface? Can I get some answers from? Let me try to show the works. Okay. Can I try the answer for this one? Are you guys seeing a different one? This one allows you to type the answer. Is your question switched? Okay. How did this one work? Okay. Let me know if it's not working. Okay. Okay. So where can I see the answers? It's in here.
So basically, you have to just type the answers.
Yeah.
Just describe it. And what's the problem with it?
Yeah. What's the problem with this?
Okay. I can say it. I don't know how I can describe it. Because it shouldn't have any integer value inside of it, 100%.
Yeah,
and
just briefly summarize that one. Okay, let me see how I can see the answer. Okay, this is hard. Let me see.
And it doesn't have public in the front of it.
Oh, now I can see the answer here. Okay, so good. Okay, keep typing, guys. Can you still see the question? Oh no, sorry, yeah. Okay, so you can see right now, right? Yeah, because when I switch that window, it kind of hide this one. All right. Okay, I'll give you one more minute. Okay.
Professor, it's not letting us type in. It says we didn't vote in time.
Oh, really? So what happened here? You know, it doesn't matter, guys. So I think that's kind of a little bit tricky. Next time I need to get two computers. So yeah, if you can type it, that's okay. Just think about the answer there. We're not gonna waste time.
That's because the method is implemented in the interface.
Yeah. All right, so let me actually share what you guys typed, at least the ones I can see here. Okay, so. All right, so right here, yeah, it's very nice tool. This tool is very interesting if you see that in a real time. People are typing things. What does it mean? No correct answer. Okay, so anyway, so yeah, you can you can type print in method. Yeah, and then interface method cannot have implementation. Okay, this is the best summary. Okay, define function. The method should not have a definition. Okay.
And it doesn't have public basically on the front of it, right? It's just void only public. You should have a public void.
Yeah, so the key problem about here, okay, guys, I think most of you got it, right? So it's about having this method implementation.
Implementation, yeah.
Yeah, it's about implementation. All right, let me come back. Okay, this is too very confusing. All right, so anyway, so the problem is this is the interface, okay? Interface, you must just do the signature. Just like what I did last time, the messaging example. Okay, you got a message called a get message from input. Another one is a get message from, displays message. But you can't put things here. Okay, the reason is because you can't instantiate object with the interface. So that's why whatever you put here, it doesn't make sense. You can't call them. All right, so only signature not the method body or implementation. Okay, so this is wrong. All right, so I think I'm gonna pause here, okay, because the other question probably will take you a little bit of time, and then I'll resume this one. Next time I'm gonna finish reviewing the Java stuff, okay? So I want you to review interface, abstract class, polymorphism, okay, these three most important things. All right, and then come back next time. We'll do more quizzes. Okay, there are still kind of a
Thank
lot
you.
of left. All right. So
Thank
any
you.
questions? Yeah, no problem. Okay, I'll make sure right after I'm stopping this class, I'm gonna upload my video. Okay. So apologize for the delay.
Thank you. I appreciate it.